So I've been asked to explain the Champions League changes because obviously I touched on yesterday that it's probably going to be top 5 that gets the Champions League in England from next season, depending on how they do in Europe. This is why. So I'll start with the format. It's going to be 36 teams instead of 32. That's why there's extra places, because 2 of the extra places are going to go based on performance, in terms of just a league's going to be rewarded with an extra place. And there's going to be an extra qualifying place in the Champions Path, which I need to look into the Champions Path, to be honest. But the other 2 extra places are going to go on coefficient. This is what I was touching on yesterday. So the coefficients, obviously, it's not club coefficients, it's league coefficients. So the best performing leagues in Europe. So each club, as they win games, get out the group, get further in the competitions, they earn coefficient points in every competition, that is. So you get more coefficient points for, say, a win in the Champions League than a win in the Europa League. But you still get coefficients for either, same with the Europa Conference League. So obviously, if you win the Champions League, you get, I don't know, something like, I don't even know, say for an example, 80,000 coefficient points. If you win the Europa League, you probably get 40,000. But it all added together goes into the pot for your league. So the extra Champions League places will go to the 2 leagues with the highest coefficient score from the year before. It's not historical, it's from the year before. So last season, as I said, it would have gone to England and Italy, because a lot of their teams done well in Europe. See, Italy had teams in every final. England won 2 of the competitions. So that team's getting out the group. So that's how that works. That's how the qualifying is going to work. Just a bit more detail. In terms of the actual competition, like I say, it's going to be 36 teams instead of 32. It's going to be a league model instead of a group phase, knockout phase. It's going to be a league model, then knockout phase. The Europa League and Europa Conference League is going to be the same. There's no longer going to be any dropping into the tournament underneath yours. So if you, for example, this season will be the last season of coming 3rd in your group and dropping into the Europa League from the Champions League. Same with the Europa League to Europa Conference League. From the season after, when it's a league phase, there'll be no dropping into the competition below, because this is how it's going to work. You're going to play 8 teams. So it's going to be 36 teams. They're going to be divided into 4 pots, seeded. And then every team is going to play 2 teams from each pot. So say, for example, I'm going to go off my Football Manager game, because that's half how I know it. I've read some things, but I've also sort of experienced it on Football Manager. I'm Liverpool, so for example, I'll play 2 teams from pot 1, which is traditionally going to be 2 of the better performing teams in the Champions League. For example, say, I don't know, Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. You'll play 1 of them at home, 1 of them away. Every team's going to play 8 games instead of 6 in the league phase. Of course, in the Champions League group at the minute, you play 6 games. Instead, teams are going to play 8. So there's 2 extra games there. There's a potential for 4 extra games, depending on if you win the competition, depending on how you get there, because this is how it's going to work. You're going to play 8 games from 2 teams from each pot. Obviously, you're all in the same league. 2 of the stronger teams, like Bayern or Madrid. Then you'd say, I don't know, say pot 2 this year. I mean, Real Madrid aren't actually in pot 1 because they didn't win the Champions League. But we'll go on coefficients, the pots, all the holders. So say in pot 2 you'd have, I don't know, Manchester United and Inter Milan. You'd play 1 of them home and away. From every pot, you'll play someone home and away, resulting in 4 home games, 4 away games. And everyone will play similar standard teams. The top 8 teams in the 36-team group will go straight through to the round of 16. Same as the Champions League. Qualify for your group, from your group, round of 16. But this is the top 8 going to the round of 16 from the league. And then 9th place, the next 16 teams, so 9th place down to, 24th, 25th, they will all go into a playoff round. Will play each other. I'm not sure how it's drawn yet, to then decide who joins the top 8 teams in the last 16. So there is an extra round in there. So there's a potential, I think it's 2 legs. It's probably 2 legs. In fact, there's no way it's not going to be 2 legs. So already, if you get into the final, you're playing 2 extra group games and an extra playoff round, 4 extra games. So that's how that'll work. And then obviously the playoff rounds played, the 8 winners go through to the last 16, and the rest of the competition is just as normal. Like I say, the Europa League and Europa Conference League, same changes, going to be the same new model called the Swiss model. And to be honest, again, this is just based on Football Manager because it's not actually come into play yet. It seems okay. Seems like, you know, it's entertaining in terms of you get a lot of bigger games in the league phase. It's a lot more open. There's bigger scope for more teams to qualify for the next round because you sort of can predict how the groups are going to play out every year in the Champions League. Seems good in that sense. It's going to be entertaining, and the fact that teams don't drop into the competition below, I've never been a big fan of that. Don't think you should get rewarded for dropping out of a competition. Champions League winners don't normally tend to drop out the Champions League. Europa League winners don't tend to normally come from whoever's dropped out the Champions League, but it's just not fair. Anyway, should just be when you're out, you're out. It seems better in that sense. The one thing I will say, and again, it's only Football Manager, but it is quite realistic. Players are tired. When you're in Europe, and it's not just going to be Champions League teams, it's going to be Europa League teams as well, Europa Conference League teams. Too many games. It's just far too many games. Something's going to have to be done about the schedule. The Premier League, it won't go down to 18 teams, even though it probably should. The League Cup, is there ways to take rounds out, get rid of the 2-legged semi-final, FA Cup? No more replays, I don't know, but the one observation I will make is it does seem like the fixture schedule is just relentless. And then, of course, the first season it comes into play, when that season finishes, there's the new Club World Cup, which you know there's going to get a lot of the big teams in from Europe. So again, teams are going to want to take it serious. They're going to want to win it. It's just going to be more games because then you're going to have the Club World Cup. Then that season's going to finish. And then it's going to be World Cup. It's just going to be non-stop.